The Center of Excellence is the driving factor that will fuel the objectives and the path for the FinOps team. It would inject the energy into the FinOps team. You have to understand the incentives of all of these different personas. You have to be able to step into their shoes.
Welcome to FinOps in Action. I'm your host, Taylor Hauk. Each week, I'll sit down with FinOps experts to explore the toughest challenges between FinOps and engineering. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that actually drive action. Hello, and welcome to another episode of FinOps in Action. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a seasoned professional with over 20 years of project management experience within IT. He's a FinOps professional, a certified FinOps instructor, and a founding contributor to the Cloud Efficiency Hub. Right now, he's going super deep into both FinOps for AI and AI for FinOps. He's a FinOps SME at Accenture Federal Services. Welcome to the show, Trig Ghosh.
Taylor, it's great to be here with you. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Trig, and I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Look what we're wearing, man. We're so festive. It is Christmas in January.
So honored, firstly, to be a part of this club that you founded, the wonderful effort that you led, and to wear the same sweater as you're wearing today.
Thank you so much, Trig. It's been an honor and so fun to have you be a part of the journey, one of the over 100 now practitioners who've become a part of the Cloud Efficiency Hub and sharing our knowledge together. But I don't want to go too deep into that yet. We'll get to the Cloud Efficiency Hub, but just to kick things off, Trig, I'm curious, you've been doing this for a long time. What do you see people getting wrong in the FinOps industry?
That's an interesting question, Taylor. My first reaction would be that I probably see people being over dependent on tooling. So tooling is there to give you good information about the steps that you have to take. But I think I see a lot of times people think that the tooling will take the steps rather than the people taking the steps themselves. So tooling is a must. You have to have tooling to get that information. You need to be armed with the information, especially like the kind of information that you guys give out about all the hundreds of places where you can, save, where you can economize and have better, cloud spend, optimized cloud spend rather. But people forget that they have to take that step in order to actually see the optimization being done in their organization. The tools cannot do it for them. That is where I think most people trip up.
What does it need? If it's not tooling, or if tooling isn't quite enough, what is it that is needed?
So people need to understand FinOps themselves as well. They cannot just depend on the tool to understand FinOps on their behalf and to take the actions that they need to take. For example, if your tool, say Point 5, tells people to delete snapshots, right? Snapshots that are old, people have to know to tie that to their business needs and to know exactly how old of a snapshot they can delete, or whether a snapshot is 3 years old, but they still need it for some legal hold or what. They have to make that connection between their business needs and what the tool is telling them. And then they have to take the action. Sometimes I see people having the attitude that, oh, I've purchased the tooling. There's nothing else for me to do, because now that I have the tooling will do everything for me.
Can you talk about your journey in FinOps and kind of how you got started and came to be where you are today?
Sure, absolutely. So I got introduced to FinOps quite by chance by one of my colleagues who just asked me if I knew what FinOps was. At that point of time, I did not know what FinOps was. So I looked up a couple of YouTube videos. It sounded really, really interesting. And then I took the certification tests. I think it was a couple of years back in the month of December that I actually cleared the test. And after clearing the test, the rest is basically history, because the subject matter is so interesting and so compelling.
When you go from the training and the test into actually implementing FinOps, what did that look like for you?
That was a very interesting journey. Now, I wanted to set up a FinOps Center of Excellence from the very beginning. Like from the time that I was taking the test, I had it in my mind that I want to set up a FinOps Center of Excellence in my place of work. So I talked with my project advisor, like my boss, basically, the person who headed a 120-person team that was doing um, cloud operations. And I told him in December after I passed the test that I would like to set up our first meeting with the entire program in December. And he said, "Do you want to wait till January? Because December is not a good month to do that." But I said, "No, let's just have it in December." So the first point is that you cannot wait for the best time to do FinOps. You have to start off whenever you can. Just start off. Um, we had a great 1 hour call with the with about 50% people of the program, about 50 to 60 people attending. We had a lot of animated discussion, and it just took off from there. The Center of Excellence did not get formally, established in that first call, but then the seed was sown for the Center of Excellence to get created right after.
I've got a couple of questions. Number one,
Sure.
when was it when you were starting your first Center of Excellence?
This was maybe about 5 years back in the month of December, though. So I do remember that it was in the month of December.
And when you brought all those people together, right? It was your first time hearing of FinOps. Perhaps it was some of those folks that joined your call. It was their first time as well. Who was it that you brought in together for those initial discussions?
That is a great question, Taylor, because success cannot be a one-man show. Success always has to be a team success. So before I set up the first call, I talked to a couple of people that were at least on the same wavelength as me as regarding cloud finance, the need to be protective of our finances, to not waste money in the cloud. And so by the time I set up my first call, I had a deck which had contributions from about 4 or 5 different people. So it wasn't my deck. It wasn't my meeting. It was our meeting with 4 or 5 people who had contributed slides, who had contributed their own thoughts, and who were willing to speak up in that call. So that was a team call where all of these people who probably did not know about FinOps till I actually brought it to them, they came with the enthusiasm to say that, hey, we need to stop the bleeding. We need to save money because that goes towards what? Guess what? It goes towards happy hours. It goes towards raising our salaries, goes towards giving our bonuses. So we tied all of these conversations around how it would benefit each and every one of us personally.
Yeah, it's so important to get people bought in onto the why, right? I mean, when I first started in my FinOps journey, I was working for a software development company. And the simple fact was that our cloud bill was growing faster than our revenues were. That's not sustainable. And when you get people aligned on the why, that can get people acting. But who was it? Like, who were the people that you brought into the call? Not their names, but their personas. Were these engineers? Were they architects? Were they finance people? Who was it that you pulled in?
There was one security and compliance person who was very enthusiastic. He had a strong voice. There were a couple of people from engineering. There was one person from the PMO finance side who had her eyes on the financial part of it. So it was basically a collection of people from different background who had agreed to speak up during the call, because the more people from different backgrounds that speak up, the better in the message that goes out to people. So it's not just one person's, biased outlook, but it's the outlook of multiple people from multiple backgrounds. So it's teamwork.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so important in FinOps. It's something that we hear over and over again from practitioners that have a lot of success is it can't be a one-man show. You've got to bring people along for the ride. Now, let me ask you this. The term FinOps Center of Excellence
Mhm.
is actually not one that I hear that often. More often, I'm hearing FinOps team, FinOps program. What does Center of Excellence mean to you? And how is it different, if it even is, than a FinOps team?
So the center of excellence is the driving factor that would fuel the objectives and the path for the FinOps team. It would inject the energy into the FinOps team. The center of excellence would have, say, a project charter. It would have goals. It would have like short, mid, and long-term goals about where you want to go. It would have a set of expectations that these are the kind of champions we want to cultivate. These are the objectives of having the champions. These are the responsibilities that the champions will have to do. So it's basically a guiding document that would then tell your team what is expected from them and what they should be doing going forward.
And how is that maintained or used over time? I can imagine it's like super helpful in the beginning. Hey, we have this charter. Here's what we're going to follow. Is it something that stays with you throughout the entire program? Or are you still using it to this day?
Yeah, the charter would be a guiding light for the entire program throughout, your FinOps journey. Because once you have thought about the objectives, the goals that you want to reach, then you can refer back to those goals. Once you have thought about the responsibilities that each of the champions should be having, then it's easier to describe those responsibilities. Those champions will not be the same for um, in the near future or the distant future. So you'll have newer and newer people coming into the team. Whenever you have newer people coming into the team, it is easier to provide guidelines if you have a guideline document written out so that you can give it to them to read, or you can present it and talk about the different facets of the document.
So just to go back to the Center of Excellence. So I'm hearing you say you've got this Center of Excellence that is a collection of people from across the organization that have buy-in towards FinOps. You also have a FinOps team. Is that correct?
That is correct. We don't have a FinOps team, quote unquote. We have FinOps champions.
Got it.
Because none of these people are full-time. Neither was I full-time. FinOps was just a tiny sliver of my job responsibility, and I did it on the side. So you just have to have the drive and the enthusiasm, and you have to select people from different teams to be champions who have that same drive and the enthusiasm and the need to save money for the program.
By the way, I also got started. My early days of FinOps were also part-time as I was juggling other responsibilities as well. Obviously, I fell in love with it and turned it into a career. But when you're working with this collective group, right, it takes some level of leadership, right? How do you think about, or what is your approach to leadership in FinOps?
Let us take a look at all the different people who could potentially do FinOps, right? So you can have FinOps led by a finance person whose main knowledge base lies in counting the nickels and dimes for your program and knowing when those things are going overboard that you have to cut down on. You can have a project manager who is tasked with helping the finance person cut down on the dollars that you're using for the program. You can have the engineer who maybe wants to do something to make sure that the architecture is correct, or you might have an architect working with the engineer to make sure that you're creating the right solutions. So you have all these different personas, right? To lead a FinOps team, you have to understand the incentives of all of these different personas. You have to be able to step into their shoes. That is exactly what I tried to do. So I tried to look at it from the finance person's shoes and figure out what actions need to be taken from their side. Then I had to step into the engineer's shoes. In fact, since I am quite comfortable like doing hands-on work in the cloud, I used to actually work with the engineers to do hands-on work when they were not sure of what they were supposed to do. So I had to wear different hats of different personas. That is how I thought I created the cohesion between the different teams that could come together and do work together, because I could relate to all of these different teams, speak their language, and do the work alongside them. So I'm not just giving them, instructions and walking away, letting them do the heavy lift, but I'm doing the lifting with them.
Let's dive in here, right? Let's talk. Let's get practical with it. What are the things these different teams care about? Perhaps we can start with finance and then go to engineering. Like, what is it when you're working with a finance person in FinOps? What do they care about, and how do you work with them most effectively?
So when you look at the finance team, the finance team is most interested in looking at the cloud spend month over month over month. The cloud spend might increase, might decrease. But if the cloud spend increases, what the finance team might not always know is why the increase is taking place. Or if there's a spike at a certain time, they might not know it's just because, 10 additional servers were either set up because or of an OS upgrade, or something else was done, or there is some kind of a testing going on. There is new code being released. They wanted to set up 2 new servers to test code. They might not always connect those dots. So if I talk to the finance team, get to know their concerns, then I'm able to speak with the engineering team, understand what the engineers are doing, why there is a spike on a certain week, or are we expecting the cost to go up in the next month or the next 3 months. Then I can convey that message to the finance team and build a build a bridge over there. So the more you understand what these different teams do, uh, the more it's going to help you to make those connections. But let me come back to your leadership thing over here. You have made connections between people of different groups belonging to different companies all over the world. So it wasn't only in the US. How did you get to do that?
You're talking about the Cloud Efficiency Hub.
The Cloud Efficiency Hub, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy to talk about that. And for anyone listening that's not familiar, the Cloud Efficiency Hub, you can find it online at hub.point5.co. It is the most comprehensive knowledge base of cloud inefficiencies that exists in the world right now. And it's free, it's public, and it's open for everyone to take a look at it. And the way that it was built is through essentially crowdsourcing the knowledge of FinOps practitioners that are doing this work every single day within organizations all over the world. Pretty much, Trig, the thesis is this. The thesis is, hey, we have so many different platforms today. I mean, you got AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. You've got new providers and kind of like pass offers like Snowflake and Databricks and Datadog, I mean, even can be looped in here. Essentially, all these different providers and services that leverage different and unique usage-based pricing models. And these usage-based pricing models are very complex. And we all know that this leads to inefficiency within cloud environments, especially at scale when you're leveraging many, many of these different cloud services. Now, when you are an experienced practitioner and you've been doing this job for a while, you start to really know and understand the billing models and how to use them within the services that you're using every day. The challenge is that every company uses a different mix of these services, right? So you may have one person on one hand that's super, super deep in AKS, right? Azure Kubernetes, but doesn't know a thing about an AWS, Aurora database. So if they were to get a new application in their scope that was on a service they were not familiar with, they've got to start from ground one and do all the research to figure out what the heck do I even do? What do I look out for within this service? So essentially, we had this idea of we can go out and enlist knowledge from the community to build a central knowledge base of these inefficiencies so that when you're getting started on a new service, you can just go in and search the collective knowledge base and find what you should be looking out for. It turns out that this thesis was partially true, and people resonated with this idea. And also, the FinOps community as a whole is one that really leans into knowledge sharing. We can get to pretty soon. You yourself are a FinOps instructor, so I know you hold this true to your heart. But people were, it didn't take a lot of chasing after folks to get them to come and contribute their experience. I'll tell you, and that's really when we knew we got something right. Is when we realized that people were coming in and happy to share, and it kind of felt like it came together naturally.
So you were asking me about the Center of Excellence. You have set up what I would call a Center of Excellence of the different ways in which you can optimize costs in the cloud. And I'm pretty sure that you have done the world a favor by providing this for free to all the people. And I'm pretty sure that your company, which is like a leading company, with a flagship product, you are probably going to be implementing a lot of those yourself, right? With your product.
Hey, thank you so much, Trig. I really appreciate that. I will say this podcast is not intended to be a 0.5 sales pitch, but yeah, absolutely, it does lean into what we do. Now, we do think that software can help solve the problem of identifying and searching the land for these inefficiencies, especially within at scale, environments where it's not feasible for a person with their hands on the keyboard to look through all the resources that are configured. But that being said, it still is a super helpful resource that people can use when they're doing this job every single day. You don't need a product to start implementing best practices out of the Cloud Efficiency Hub.
Yep, very good. So a lot of the things that you did are things that I had done to, connect with people. So the fundamentals are the same. The ways that we operate are different just because we are different people.
Absolutely. I'm curious, getting back to our earlier conversation, this actually leans really well into it because we talked about, hey, what does finance care about? And your answer was, hey, they care about, did costs go up and down? What is my cost versus budget? And what's the number, right? What is my monthly cloud spend? Hey, are you throwing cash out the door for an upfront reservation? Like those are the things that they care about. When you work with engineers, what do they care about?
The engineers care about deadlines. They care about deadlines. They don't want to have any failures, so they wouldn't mind over provisioning because they just want their systems to work properly without any failures, any issues. So you have to convey to them the importance of, yes, we don't want to have any issues, but we don't want to have any issues with our monthly costs, spiking either. So it's always a conversation of two different perspectives meeting and agreeing.
And how do you work with them? Let's say like the Cloud Efficiency Hub is a great example. We have a list of pretty much all these potential inefficiencies that could exist within any given service. Let's say you found, I don't know, if you might have an example even to share about a specific inefficiency that you were able to resolve. How do you bring that type of thing to an engineer and get them to take it seriously?
You make them owners of the problem and the solution. And just because it is teamwork and not an individual who is trying to shine, you give them credit for what they've done. So you talk to them, you ask for suggestions, you talk to them about problems, about the cost rising month after month, or even, for a certain week. You talk to them about those costs, you have them solve that cost issue, and then you give them recognition. So whenever we had these monthly meetings for FinOps, about the FinOps Center of Excellence or anything else, there used to be a slide in the PowerPoint deck that was devoted to the people who went above and beyond their job responsibilities in order to do something that went towards reducing costs. So you have to incentivize them. You have to make them a part of the team rather than have them feel that they're at the periphery. You tell them what to do and they do it. It doesn't happen that way. They have to feel like they are the ones who are deciding what to do and they are the ones who are doing it.
Now these are golden nuggets and ones that are so true to follow and practices that we've heard from so many people. And the reason why you're probably hitting on all the right things, Trig, is you actually are a FinOps trainer yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this and maybe even how being a trainer has helped you along your FinOps journey?
Sure, absolutely. One of my good friends, Rick Triana, who was actually the guy who encouraged me to go in for the finance professional certification. So I went in for the finance professional certification, and after that, Rick is the one who encouraged me to become a trainer. So I went ahead and did everything that I was supposed to do in order to become a trainer, and then Accenture signed the training partner contract with the Finance Foundation or the Linux Foundation, whichever you want to call it. And then Accenture became a training partner of the Finance Foundation. So training has been very rewarding as an activity. I've trained a bunch of people inside Accenture. I've trained Accenture clients. It's just been very rewarding. And I do have to mention Rick's name once again, Rick Chiana, for his support over here, because had it not been for him, I wouldn't have done it. And I did receive a lot of support from my MDs, Mike Eisenstein and from Kevin Harris. They have been solid support for me all throughout my FinOps journey. So I do appreciate all the support. So it definitely was a village that created this trainer. It wasn't self-effort.
I actually have a question that I would love to ask a FinOps trader. Can I ask you?
Sure, go ahead.
What is FinOps?
Let us take a step back, okay, to ask about what is it to work in the cloud. So, firstly, you need to have a good architecture, right? You need to have architects who would design a good architecture. And the reason for the good architecture is what? Firstly, your product has to work correctly. It has to do what you're wanting it to do. But secondly, it has to be cost effective so that you don't have runaway costs. So that is the architecture part. The second part is talking about maintenance. The product has to be maintainable, right? So you need to have engineers who can fix the product when it goes wrong. You have to have proper change management process in place. So we talk about change management, CCB, we have a ticketing mechanism, we have all of these things, right? And then lastly, you have the finance people coming in. So if you look at all these different angles, there is one common thing from all these different angles and any other angle that you think of. There is one thing that is common to everything, which is money, dollars, the green bills. That is where FinOps comes in. So FinOps has this lever of the green bills, the dollars, and this lever moves every other lever. It is connected to every other lever. So basically, FinOps teaches responsible cloud management, even though it teaches it only with respect to finance, but finance has its bearing on all these different aspects. So you become a responsible engineer or responsible architect or responsible, change management professional because you are being asked to do that by something called FinOps in the cloud. So responsible cloud management is my answer.
What an answer. Man, it's awesome because FinOps is something that the word is so thrown around these days. And sometimes I wonder if people even know what it means. And I actually think that different people have different definitions, but I think that you just did an amazing job explaining it, Trig. Now, FinOps is something that's been around for a while now. It's not so new anymore, but things are changing so fast. How do you see FinOps kind of shaping in this world of AI?
That's a very interesting question. So, we are now in the world of AI. AI is growing. FinOps is growing with it. There is definitely a very strong connection between FinOps and AI. Now that AI is giving us all the tools, firstly to use natural language like NLP, as it's called, uh, to do a lot of our work. The natural connection between FinOps and AI comes where now the end user is now using NLP to get their information that they need rather than going through all these mouse clicks. So if you look at AI from two aspects, right? From the aspect of FinOps for AI, we're using, and a company that provides AI solutions is actually doing FinOps to reduce their AI costs. So that is one perspective. The other perspective is FinOps, you're using FinOps to reduce your own AI consumption costs. So you're a consumer and you're trying to reduce your FinOps consumption costs by doing AI. Um, and both of these areas are growing and will keep on growing. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of next years. I mean, next couple of years rather.
Are you bold enough to give me a prediction?
I am not bold enough to give you any predictions right now, but what I will say is we are in a honeymoon period right now where we are able to use a lot of LLMs for very little cost or for free. This will not last forever. At some point, the money is going to dry up, and all of these services are going to be very expensive. The question is, how do we want to handle that world where AI usage is expensive just because people are not pouring so much of R&D money into AI, like for research and development purely.
Trig, that is such a good point. I've heard people mention before. It's like, do you remember when Uber and Lyft were first getting started and you could call a ride and it would be like $3 or $4?
Hmm.
That doesn't exist anymore, right? It's because the investors were subsidizing some of those rides to get users. And perhaps the same thing is happening in AI right now. No matter what happens over the next few years, we know that AI spend is going to go up by a lot. Whether it's the services getting more expensive themselves, or maybe even they're going to get cheaper, but way more people are going to use it, and we're going to find way more use cases. No matter what, the spend is going to go up, most likely, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. And I know you're going to be a part of it. Thank you so much. This has been such an incredible discussion with Trig Ghosh from Accenture Federal Services. Trig, before we sign off, anything else the audience should know about you? I mean, we don't just do FinOps, right? We're more than that. We're people.
We are human beings. Yeah. Well, in my free time, I go to this fantastic club called Toastmasters. It's for public speaking. I play the harmonica in my free time as well. And if there are people around who really love me, then I can sing in their presence if they promise to not run away.
Wow, I did not know this about you. I did not know this about you. And now I hope I can make it on your list. And we'll get to hear that one day. But Trig, it has been an incredible episode. Thank you so much for coming on.
Same here, Taylor. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for your sweater.
Absolutely. And to the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode of FinOps in Action. We'll be back for more next time. Thanks again, Trig. That wraps up another episode of FinOps in Action. Thank you for joining. For show notes and more, please visit finopsinaction.com. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that actually drive action.